All right, resident genius and NFL insider Stacey Dales joins us now here on the Rich Eisen Show. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know we've been going back and forth all week about it, but Stace, I always love seeing your face on the other side of the camera.
Oh, well, hearing your voice is
It's a
it's
love
a
fest
treat.
here.
It's like it sets up my day for success. I wouldn't have missed it, Suze. And happy to be with you guys in the middle of May, or is it just past the middle of May? And there's always something to talk about in the NFL. And then the WNBA is happening, and the weather's nice. So it's summers in Chicago are fantastic.
Just so you know, yesterday I called Overreaction Monday win-loss. I mean, I just kind of got everything screwed up, so I never really know what day it is. So you're with me here. Thank you for letting me know what day it is. Who's the puppy in the background?
Well, that would be a blue, and I've got a ruby in here, and I don't know where the other one is. But yeah, they're magnetized to me, just like yours are to you and have been to you, Suze. We are dog people.
Well, I love the fact that you came correct with that. Let's talk about the Bears. Let's get right into it. I see a million headlines saying that Caleb Williams is far ahead of schedule with the Bears schemes. What are you hearing?
Well, having spent quite a bit of time there, because I do live in the area, and I anticipate really being there frequently, which hasn't been the case of late. I cover the whole league, Suze, and they just haven't been good in a while. 2018 was really their last pretty good year with Mitch Trubisky, and this is really groundbreaking territory for them. I can use all the hyperbole in the world, but he is the chosen one, Caleb Williams. And you and I have done a couple of these here through the offseason at the combine, and then subsequently later. And he has all of these things that you would anticipate him to be able to jump in and have like an Andrew Luck type start, right? And really, that's been the comp most recently in terms of how good people think he can be. But people think he is next generation type talent. And I know certainly the Bears believe that. And it's not just because of his prowess on the field and the production that we saw through college. And really, honestly, some of the struggles that he had collegiately in the last couple of years there at USC. But the person he is, having been around him, he's a team guy, and he has an aura. And I remember asking Matt Eberflus, the coach, about it. And if there's just something about him that when you spend 5 minutes with him, you absorb. And that to me is confidence. And I certainly know that because they were so convicted, Susie, on Caleb Williams, after his 30 visit in Chicago, which was really the only one that he took and the only one they supported in terms of the quarterback position, he was given verbiage. He was given commands. His quarterbacks coach that he's been working with, was in collaboration with the Bears coaching staff and Shane Waldron, the new offensive coordinator. So it's been a nice dance, I would say, but we have to pump the brakes because it's the NFL, just like any pro league for a rookie. The good news for him is he has been built. He's going to walk into a team that's been built to have some success right away. I think about the Texans. I think about, CJ Stroud and Will Anderson joining that group with D'Amico Ryans a season ago. And I think that the way the roster is structured, really good defense, really bona fide receivers, and a pretty good backfield, an offensive line that has been retooled. I just think he has some things around him in place that could enable some early success. But as always, Bears fans are going to have to be patient.
And he is coming out of a college program that really employs a lot of the NFL schemes as well. That's far more complicated than things used to be. But what about the degree of difficulty in absorbing the manifesto that is a pro playbook?
Yeah. Well, I think playing under center too. I mean, there's a big jump for quarterbacks from the college level, just strictly on the footwork and the fundamentals in the pocket. What I can tell you is they've designed their staff too. I mean, Kerry Joseph, the quarterbacks coach, he's a former quarterback. I won a Grey Cup in the CFL, and when he was a player, so he's had a lot of success. You bring in Thomas Brown, who was with the Carolina Panthers last year, who saw a lot of maybe let's don't do this, right? With what happened with Bryce Young and how that transpired. But that roster wasn't the same. I mean, that's the difference. When you think about what he's walking into, he's got to figure out the footwork, but and sort of how they want the language to be delivered. And that's a big part of what's happening right now, Suze, is What is the language that you're comfortable with and how we call plays in this big, huge binder that you're going to get and that he's already received? And how is that going to manifest and be delivered and executed in the huddle from the play caller to the quarterback to the team? I think they're going to try to make it seamless and easy for him. But this process right now is all about figuring out that language to make him super comfortable.
So who do you think the biggest challenges will be as we look ahead at the schedule for this season?
Well, the Packers. I I covered the Bears in the draft, Suze, and I did a report on just the last 10 years. Forget anything before that, but the last 10 seasons. And I think the Bears have like 2 wins in that span against Green Bay. I don't quote me on that because I don't have all my numbers with me, but they have to beat in week. What are we looking at here?
Let's see.
Where are they? I'm trying to circle the Packers in
week
here.
11.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because, I like the way it starts for them against Tennessee. I think that's a game for Chicago at home. All the luster and allure is going to be there. But I was kind of disappointment. Like last year, we had the Packers week 1 and the last week of the season, I think it was, and now we got to wait for it. But really no divisional games there in the early onslaught for Chicago. But those are all, games in which I think Houston, that's a really tough place to go.
Really interesting one. I was about to go there. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a Sunday
I think that's
nighter.
a hard one. Yeah, and I covered a couple Texans games last year, Susie, and CJ Stroud has that city in the palm of his hand right now, and rightfully so. Indianapolis, there in Indiana, I think that's going to be a tough one too, because Anthony Richardson, he could be, or he might just be the most, he was injured all of last season, but he's the most alluring player to me because he was so good coming out in terms of all the things that you want in the position, like the leadership, the work ethic, the way his teammates just adore him, but then his prowess and what he can do on the field. He's the quarterback I cannot wait to see this year, because in talking to Chris Ballard at the Combine, and that guy is slinging it around and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just looking ahead at week 11, week 12, Minnesota, week 13 at Detroit, week 14 at San Francisco, week 15 at Minnesota, then Detroit. I mean, that is a banger of a series right there. I mean, that is just going to be a relentless challenge for a young quarterback.
It is, but I would rather see that, Susie, at the back end of the schedule for Caleb Williams than I would at the start. And I think that's favorable, especially with the bye there in week 7, because he needs time. I mean, this is going to be a journey, to really develop with Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze and DJ Moore and the backfield, DeAndre Swift, the tight ends, because those tight ends, we think of Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, they're really going to be used heavily in this scheme because Shane Waldron loves to use tight ends in an array of personnel groupings. We saw how creative he was in Seattle with the tight ends, sometimes using a couple of them out of the backfield on a certain alignment. So again, getting the language, getting that chemistry, and making it seamless for him, get the ball out. But early in the season, I think it favors Caleb Williams because it's no slight on those other teams. But when you're talking about Detroit and Green Bay and the division on the back end, plus San Francisco, as you alluded to, that's a really tough stretch. But hopefully he learns after coming out of the bye in week 8.
What's the other question mark that you're most excited about answering in the NFL this season?
Oh, man. Where do I start with that? The Miami Dolphins really intrigue me because of, now Odell and the speed they have, and Tua. Is the defense up to snuff? Is it up to snuff to get them over the hump? I find it really interesting what's going on in Buffalo, keeping it in their division with Stephon Diggs, now a Houston Texan. Can't wait to see how Josh Allen is able to kind of leave his go-to guy for so many years and how that offense changes a little bit. San Francisco is always interesting to me because they're always a Super Bowl caliber team. Like, can we agree on something, Suzy? Like, their defense is always incredible, right? Their offensive line with Trent Williams as the stalwart of that group is always incredible. Brock Purdy now has another weapon in the rookie, Ricky Pearsall, the rookie receiver. Like, they are so talented and explosive on both sides of the football, but they haven't gotten the job done. And then I go to Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, and who always does, and that's the guy in their way. And that would be the last thing for me, is just how Kansas City they just won another Super Bowl. Like, what's going to be different about them this year to keep them, Tom Brady, on the Tom Brady train, kind of, so to speak.
I thought you were going to ask me if we could agree that Brock Purdy is an NFL caliber quarterback, because I feel like that poor kid, just the conversation never ends. Like, how good is Brock Purdy? It's like, he's pretty good, people. We just watched him. He's pretty good.
When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Like, I'm not sure why. I spent a lot of time at the Super Bowl with Brian Griese, who he's so interesting to listen to on the 49ers staff, and obviously played the position. And, Brock Purdy goes undrafted. Well, this is a guy that Griese was pounding the table for. And when you have somebody like that analytically, who understands the position, that saw that out of this young man at Iowa State, you got to listen to it. And like, they couldn't be more pleased with how he's able. Can you imagine walking into Kyle Shanahan's offense? He is arguably right now, the way he calls plays, that stretch run game, the way he is able to get all of these Debo and Kittle and Ayuk in space, right? They get the ball in space. They are yak destroyers in San Francisco. That is where they make, I've talked to George Kittle about it. That's where they make their money. Get the ball in space. Kyle is the one who puts them in that position. Well, if you don't have a quarterback that can deliver the ball to those places seamlessly and with rhythm and timing, and at his young age, he's able to do this in a Kyle Shanahan offense, I have great respect for that. And so until he proves me otherwise, I think Brock Purdy is a pretty damn good quarterback.
Stacey, Dale's here on the Rich Eisen Show. Suzy Shuster in for Rich. It's funny, when you were talking about Caleb Williams, I couldn't help but think about the headlines are saying how he's absorbing the book so well. Everyone's so excited to have him. If he starts 0-4, compare that to the 0-4 start that Caitlin Clark has had. Because it feels like the sky is falling right now with the WNBA. And everyone expected her to come out and be the second coming of Michael Jordan. But I'm curious your thoughts about that. I just couldn't help thinking about that as we were talking.
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on this. Nothing surprises me about her start or the Fever start. Okay, this is an incredible adjustment for both sides. The first point I would tell you is, having played in a national championship game in college, what does that mean? Can you imagine a Super Bowl in February and Patrick Mahomes has to turn around in 2 months and play a game? Can you imagine that? Like, NFL, different than basketball, totally different. But I played in a national championship game. I had to turn around and play. By the way, like, I didn't miss a game. Caitlin Clark didn't miss a game. She played 4 years in the same system under Lisa Bluter. So there's a lot that is packed into that. She has a turnaround of 2 months. I'm going to tell you right now, like, without her putting words in her mouth, and maybe I could be totally wrong, but given the experience that I went through, I was freaking tired. Like, it is exhausting to play at the highest level in a national championship game. 2 months later, you're in the WNBA. Now, like, the WNBA, the NBA, the NFL, these are reality checks, okay? And there's a reason. I don't think Diana Taurasi was targeting her like, wait until she starts in the WNBA. She's gonna get a load of it. Like, I remember when Taurasi was a rookie. I played against her. We beat her. Like, or I think it was her rookie season. She didn't have necessarily the team around her, the gel around her that she'd had for 4 years at Connecticut. Although I think she's the greatest competitor I've ever faced, and I have the world of respect for her. she would be the first to tell you her rookie season was really hard. My rookie season was so hard that in the middle of it, I was completely burnt out. I'd lost way too much weight. I had to start eating peanut butter sandwiches in the middle of practice because I didn't have enough energy to get through practice. I was completely broken down, and we went to the playoffs that year. I played with Holdsclaw, I played with Vicky Bullitt, Muriel Page. We had a really good team. So I didn't have to be great. I was the third overall pick. I didn't have to come in and be a star. Imagine Caitlin Clark having to come in and be a star. She's got Aaliyah Boston, who's really damn good. But they're trying to figure everything out together under Christy Sides, who's trying to learn how to coach Caitlin Clark, who's been in the same system under Lisa Bluter for 4 years. And now she's got to play in a new WNBA system that is completely different. And maybe they've pulled some tendencies, which I've seen watching a little bit of it in terms of the way they use the on-ball screen and pick and rolls and such. But she has to be tired. They can't take her off the court because she's transcendent. She is the greatest player right now of this generation coming into the WNBA from the college level. And she's probably going to have to play, I don't know how many games she'll be able to go, but we're talking a 40-game schedule, Suze. Like, they're going to have to get super creative in how they give her rest in Indianapolis, and make sure that she can really sustain this season because there's so much being asked of her. And I haven't even mentioned the media requests. Every time I pop on Twitter/X, it's Caitlin Clark walking into the stadium, right? The arena. Like, all of the media, all of the attention. She's taken things to another level, and again, deservedly so. But we have to be very, very careful about how we say, oh, she's not ready or she's this or that, when frankly, she's very ready. But there are a lot of components to being able to play at the highest level and get your team wins every night. It's just really hard to do. And I didn't even touch on how good the league is. I mean, you put New York on tape, put Las Vegas on tape, like those two teams specifically at the top of the Eastern and Western Conference right now, they're incredible. Like, every player, and it's not just their starting five, it's what's coming off the bench. Then you add the physicality. And I'm telling you, I came out of my WNBA games that rookie season and I was banged up and bruised up. It is more physical. And when you, by the way, start to react to that and bow up a little bit, that takes a lot of energy out of you. I don't know if you've ever boxed, Suzy, but when you throw punches and throw blows, it's just as exhausting as when you take them.
And even worse when you miss them. I know that from boxing with Chris Brockman on a daily basis. That's the other thing is last night when she turned her left ankle, still ended up the game with 17 points, 5 assists. But when she turned her left ankle in the second quarter, it was like a collective pause for the entire WNBA. I felt like maybe there was an earthquake outside here in Southern California. The fear of what could happen to her this early. And as she said, everyone experiences an ankle sprain in basketball, but it reminded me of the conversation that we had with Sue Bird here on the show. And if you want to hear that conversation, go to the YouTube page and pull it up. But I feel like there's a little bit of almost like a level of resentment from some of the other players in the league saying, we existed before this. Mm-hmm. How do we rationalize the phenomenon that she is coming in with the other women that have said, we've had game for years here?
Yeah, this is a really interesting conversation because I played against Sue, and if I was picking a starting point guard on my team, there's so many. I mean, Lindsay Whalen, you go on, the list goes on. Becky Hammond, like Sue would be my starting point guard. I mean, she's brilliant. There's a reason she played so long, the way she took care of her body. But she had success early. She had Lauren Jackson, right? She had a number of players around her that were really good in Seattle. It aligned there for her. But I think when you're talking about the animus from older players to now, here's what's really remarkable. And I get it. I totally get it. I don't know if they're directing it at Caitlin Clark, but I think when you're and I hesitate to use the word pioneer, but when you are, how many Olympic gold medals does Sue have? How many does Taurasi have? How many does Lisa Leslie have? Dawn Staley? Like, we forget the WNBA, Suzy, was established back in the late 90s. It launched on the court in 1997. I was a freshman at the University of Oklahoma. Like, we're talking about a 27-year-old league. Now, some may argue that's not very old, right? We're still growing. We're talking about a league that has had to go through so much that now we have charter flights this season. Thank you, Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner. Thank you to the league for this. Why did it take this long? When I played, we had back-to-back games because what they do is take the NBA schedule and almost mimic it in a condensed version in the WNBA. You're playing a 7 o'clock game. You're transitioning. You have to be on, per the league rules, I don't know what they are or were now or were prior to this change in the chartered flights, but you have to be on a certain flight the next day that gets you in early enough to be able to settle in and be able to play the next night. That is so hard on your body, but we just did it. We went through airports, flew commercial, and it's not that players, we don't want to fly commercial. It's when you're able to get on a charter flight that night, you get to bed there that night, and boom, like you're better off the next day to make the product better. We're talking 27 years, Suzy. Like, and when you look at Candace Parker and Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, I remember the first WNBA press conference, I believe it was Rebecca Lobo, Lisa Leslie, and I think Cheryl Swoops. And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry. But then all of a sudden you have this Caitlin Clark wave. I do think she does things differently on the court. And I think that's a big part of it. When we talk about these logo bombs that she shoots, and she had one in her last game, it's so cool to watch. I think it's like when Steph Curry started shooting the ball, people were like, wait, he's not even near the line. Like, what's going on? She's doing things differently. And I think that has to be accounted for. But what I like about it is it forces us and people out there to have conversations bigger than this year. Like remembering how good and how long Sue played and how good Diana Taurasi still is. And Tamika Catchings is the toughest player I've ever played against. Like, I mean, it's really forcing us to have a greater conversation about all of the Hall of Fame players and legends that have played in the WNBA, and take a deeper look at that. But listen, you're going to take your lumps when you're a rookie. It ain't easy. I was lucky as a rookie because I joined a really good team that was playoff bound. When I joined the Chicago Sky, the inaugural team of the Chicago Sky, and scored our first basket, we were awful. I don't think we won 5 games. So you're going to take your lumps in this league, and a lot of times that happens when you're a rookie.
Well, we get to see her in person in Los Angeles this Friday. We're taking Taylor. Rich and I are taking her, so we can't wait to see her. And love seeing you, too. Thanks again for taking the time today.
Wait, who's driving to the game, Suze? You or Rich?
I'm driving because I'm an awesome driver, and sometimes I like to go places quickly. That's all. I'm just saying, sometimes I'm in a rush.
That's good. I'm glad you're the driver.
You should be. Thank you so much. And believe me, if I don't get a ticket on the way, it'll be great. Stacey, love talking to you. Thanks again for your time.
Same, Suze.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.